Hi, I'm Sherri.
And I'm Lana.
And this is Real Estate Tips with SNL.
I'm so glad you remember us.
I know.
It's been so long. It feels like ending of the year, starting the new. Thank you for remembering who we are.
Oh, but of course, I can't forget us. But more importantly, I can't forget our guest today.
Very exciting.
So, yes, we have Keith Fontaine, who is from, is it Madore or Madore? I always say
it's Madore. Yeah.
Madore.
Common thing though, a lot of people say Madore.
Madore.
But yeah, Madore.
You know,
French, not Italian.
Okay. Madore Photography and NXT, Next Level Studios, which is where we are right now. And I do consider Keith to be our resident expert.
Definitely.
So yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So my name's Keith. I work here at Madore Photography and Next Level Studios. We're in our studio right now, and ordinarily I'm over there.
Yes.
You're behind the scenes.
Normally I'm not in front of the camera all that much, but we actually have Taylor is running our podcast setup, so she's handling that right now while I'm sitting in the hot seat. So,
yeah.
How long you been doing this, Keith?
It'll be 8 years this spring.
8 years with this company or 8 years?
With this company, yeah. I've been doing photography professionally since I graduated college, but not for photography. So I did about 3 years I was working before this. So.
And were you doing photos for real estate or you were doing?
Nope, entirely different actually. So I graduated with a music degree, which is a terrible idea.
What?
I don't recommend it. It's not very lucrative. But I was working at a musical instrument retailer.
Okay.
And their specialty was like vintage stuff, hard to find stuff.
Oh, neat.
So they had very active like e-commerce platforms. So I was doing the photography for their stuff. So they take in old pieces, old drum sets, old electronics and stuff. I would fix them and then photograph them and then.
But it's still you're still working on stills, and the marketing or selling of
1,000%.
So coming into this. So I feel like when we're getting a house ready to photograph professionally for a listing, I try to provide a list to my clients on what they can do to get things ready. But I always say, I'm going to walk through and I'm going to notice things. But a photographer is looking through a lens. So you're seeing things that might be a little different.
For sure.
What would be some of the tips that you might have for people getting their house ready?
I mean, there's the obvious stuff like toilet seats down, toilet paper not falling off the roll.
That's my pet peeve. I don't like those toilet seats up.
Those are the obvious things, but definitely when we get into a property, we start really microscoping certain things. And I'm big about like, if there's a pattern, have the pattern be consistent. So like shades are a good example. It's not uncommon for us to go in and not all the shades work, or one of them's broken, or that one won't go up all the way, or that one's crooked. And so in those cases, we tend to just make everything uniform so then it looks like we intended it that way. And that's a general thing I look for when I'm doing those walkthroughs is, I kind of have to meet the house where it's at, because sometimes it's just things are how they are. But as long as it's like consistent across and the pattern is consistent and like the symmetry is even, then everything kind of looks like we did it on purpose. And no one really is, they're not drawn to those things. Like shades are a big one. And that's on top of the obvious stuff like trash cans away, like stuff neat and tidy, counters not cluttered, all that kind of stuff.
Some of the things that's challenging for me when you're saying what was the words you used? Like a pattern. That's what it was. So some of the things that like on the countertop, when I'm working in the kitchen, I look at if my eyeball goes to a color like, let's say a red teapot that there's nothing red in the whole kitchen, right? I try to take that away. Is that a good idea?
I think so. I think like if you have a pretty neutral color scheme and then you have a big pop of color, it is going to naturally draw the eye. So you can use that, and a lot of stagers might use that to draw attention to some feature.
Right.
But if it's just in and of itself, if it's not there for a reason, then it's probably best to take it out. Just so we're guiding the eye specifically to things we want people to notice.
Right.
Like if the range is this incredible Italian range they had to import and that alone is worth $10,000, maybe, put the red teapot on it so people look at it.
Right.
But if it's just the regular GE range that came with the kitchen, maybe a neutral or none at all might be better. So it doesn't become a focal point when it isn't intended to be a focal point.
So I make sure that they put all the lights on. The biggest thing is any single light, right?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And then I walk through with the photographer, you or who comes there, and have you kind of look at what I've set up. one of the questions I have about photos that get taken is sometimes there's a direct picture of maybe a countertop or the sink or the front door, but it's cropped.
Yeah, nice tight.
What is that?
We would call those vignettes, or sometimes we'd call them lifestyle shots.
Okay.
There's agents of two minds. Some agents, they want a ton of that stuff because it's how maybe they use it on socials instead of on MLS, or maybe it's just part of their larger branding. They're using it for their website or for general material.
Okay.
Maybe they are really excited about the design or the staging. They want to show that off. Other agents are like, don't care. Give me the wides. I need information. You know, I want to see the whole room. I don't care about the flowers. Just give me that stuff. So,
I remember Jeremy telling us once. Now, Jeremy Madore, who is the owner of the company. I remember him telling me once that the best way to photograph a room is to try to capture 3 walls whenever you can, because otherwise the size of the room is distorted.
Oh yeah.
That's not always possible depending on the space. And I find like bathrooms.
Those are usually the toughest.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. What's the trick to that?
Bathrooms in particular, there's a bunch of little tricks. When we train our people, we try to show them all the little tricks. One of them is we'll do a lot of, anyone who's had me for a photo shoot has probably seen me lean my tripod into things. You can eke out a couple extra inches of space, which when you're using a big wide lens can make a pretty big difference. Yeah. The thing that's really tricky with bathrooms is door swings, actually.
Yes.
The killer for bathrooms is when you have a door, and I guess if you're thinking about renovating your house, think about this. If your bathroom door swings such that it blocks the vanity, I can't get the shot.
True.
Because there's nowhere for me to put the camera. Now, sometimes I can close the door and I can like really squeeze into the corner, but it's usually really tight. And like you're saying, you usually can't get the third wall in that case. So you end up with a shot of just the sink. Yeah. Which is not usually ideal because you don't want it to feel like the bathroom's crazy cramped. Yeah. So
but that's when you really want to stage that sink.
Yeah. So it's perfect. Yeah. Oh, for sure. And sometimes in bathrooms too, we'll have to then, I call it the inverse, where we have to go to the other end and stand by the toilet and shoot back the other way. That's usually not the ideal shot because usually rooms are generally designed visually based on you walking through the door.
Correct.
Most kitchens are designed in a way that they wow you as you walk through the door, not to wow you when you stand at the sink doing dishes.
Yeah.
And the same is usually true of bathrooms. Usually it's supposed to be like you open the door and it's like, oh, there's the view, as opposed to standing in the opposite corner. But if the door swings the wrong way, that's kind of what I have to do.
What are your thoughts on, I know a lot of us use the drone to take photos. When is it a good or not a good time to use it? Because I can't imagine that always beneficial.
Not always, yeah. And drone's all about context. That's really the point to use the drone. There are some cases where you'd use a drone where you don't want context. Most commonly, if you have a very steep front yard. So like if street's here and then you have this big slope and the house is all the way up here. From the ground, you have this really steep angle that you're looking way up at the house. The drone can just kind of hover here instead, which is nice. Generally speaking, though, that's not the primary reason you'd want a drone. You'd want context. So if the context doesn't help, the drone's not going to help. I've had a couple good examples. I mean, one of them is highways. When we're in Metro West near Boston, the agents are usually like, please show me Route 2. Please show me 90. Like, I want it there. It's a commuter location. That's a big deal. If you're selling a house in Westminster and you're right next to Route 2, probably not as much of a feature. And so it's one of those things where, we can, play the angles a little bit, but if it's right there, it's right there.
I think it's ideal, like when there's a big field or when you have acreage, that looks good. But it's challenging when you're coming up really, really high. Like I like the drone that comes around the house, but when there's not much openness and you just have trees and you're coming really, really high, it's like, okay, it doesn't show much more than that. But when the fields or open space or another extra lot or things like that, that's pretty cool.
I love drone. Sure. I like it to be just a little bit above the house.
That's what I'm talking about.
So you're looking down at it because now you're seeing it from an angle that you can't see from the street.
Sure. Yeah, it's the only way you can see front and backyard at the same time.
Yep.
Yes.
And so if you have like a lot of landscaping or like the clearing is really special, that's a great way to show it. Obviously, anything in the realm of equestrian properties or agricultural properties, it's a no-brainer because like, how are you going to show the scope of that from the ground?
My favorite, so weather when it comes to photography, I actually love a spring day where it has just rained and the sun is not out yet.
Yep.
You know, and that's when I think the grass looks the greenest,
Sparkles.
the driveway looks the darkest on the pavement, and you don't have any shadow, you know, or sun cast. But you've got people who feel like, oh, I need the sun outside. You know, you can still create a blue sky.
It's actually preferable. So my order of preference for lighting condition is almost universally like 60% cloud cover and the sun's behind a cloud. Because like you said, you don't get those crazy hot spots right next to deep shadows like you do on a cloudless day. Common misconception. My second favorite day to shoot in is overcast, full overcast, which a lot of people will actually run to cancel their appointments when that's on the schedule. And the irony is actually that's usually some of the best results we get.
That's when I tell my clients, there will be sunshine in your world.
It will.
Yes.
What we can do digitally is crazy these days. And actually we can do so much that we have to consciously exercise restraint to not change things too much. But that being said, like putting a blue sky where there was a gray one is very easy. Making a photo a little bit brighter and a little bit warmer is very easy and is not at all what I would consider deceptive or anything like that.
I agree.
And so, in a lot of cases that like it just rained yesterday and now it's overcast today and everything's a little dewy, makes the colors pop and it makes for like really, really nice lighting.
Huge. Yeah. I agree.
It's the same reason we use these big soft lights here in the studio.
I know.
Because you don't want that hard, harsh like light and shadow. You want this nice soft, gentle kind of blanket of light.
Oh, we're gentle.
Thank you. I know.
Soft.
I feel so soft and pretty.
Okay.
Now videos. You're doing videos on properties.
In fact, it's our fastest growing product by quite a bit. A couple years ago, we were doing maybe 10% of our listings were video. I think we're up above 30% now. So it's growing very fast.
When you say video, so wait, there's a couple things that come across my mind when you hear video. Video of like videoing, having a walkthrough, or what was those things that they walk through before and you have to...
The Matterport.
Oh, you think of Matterport? Yep.
Yes.
So there's separate products. Matterport is a 3D scan of the house.
Yes.
Which is then interactable. So a user can then go navigate through it themselves.
Are you doing that?
We do. There's not a lot of adoption out here.
Got it.
It's much more popular on the West Coast.
Okay.
But
I think a house has to be meticulous for that.
Yeah.
It is a
because you
warts
will
and all.
see every little speck of dust.
Yes.
Yeah, the biggest thing with Matterport is it's not curated. It is the whole thing. People can peruse to whatever corner they want. If they want to look straight up at the ceiling or right down at the floor in whatever spot they can. If they want to get
It is cool. It is cool, but it's also a little confusing too when you're in the, I mean, it's not my favorite, but I have seen it and thought, oh, I'm glad I had that because it gave me a better view of the floor plan.
For sure. It's good in some cases too. Like for relos, it's a no-brainer. Everybody relocating loves Matterport because they don't have to do the FaceTime with their realtor thing. They can just kind of peruse it.
Yeah.
So when you're talking video, you were saying, so is it actual just going through the whole thing or are you taking pictures and making a video?
No. So we're actually shooting video specifically for it. We have rigs and cameras specifically for it. We offer horizontal or vertical, that being like this or this, depending on your target platform.
Got it.
And then we also offer if agents want to get on camera and do dialogue.
Is there a specific time? Is there a 30-second? Is it
generally we're aiming for less than a minute in general. And that's just because of the way that the algorithms on the various social platforms are promoting things.
Yep.
If it's under a minute, you're way more likely to get more views because they're pushing it harder. And also people's attention spans are
I would say you can see how long someone was watching it, right? And so you might have a 5-minute video that only got a minute and a half viewing.
Yep, that seems to be about minute and a half seems to be about people's tolerance for most things, unless it's like really, really interesting.
What a crazy world we are in right now.
I know.
Yeah. So do you find that there's a lot of people who are, doing the videos, agents being in the video, or even homeowners? Have you got a homeowner who's like, I'm going to show you my house? And
I don't think I've ever had a homeowner give a tour or speak on camera. What I have had lots of homeowners do is show off certain things. Waterfront's a big one. I really like doing video of waterfront property because there's almost always some sort of water thing to play with and make a video out of. So what I've done a lot of is the homeowner gets their boat out. They've just cleaned it the day before. It's the cleanest it's ever been.
Yeah.
And they go show off how fast that thing is while I chase them with the drone. Really, really common thing. You know, homeowners will be doing donuts in the water and we're chasing them and all that. So
That's
should
a
get
good one.
skiing down Wachusett Mountain.
that would be awesome, actually.
That would be fun. You want to be my skier? Okay.
I'm gonna have to get back on skis a little bit to see if I can do that without falling.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's I haven't had a homeowner do that specifically, but yeah, I've had them be in the video before incidentally. You know,
I think some of them would take a lot of pride to do that.
Oh, absolutely.
I think, you know, to talk about their house, because there's a lot of people that I've talked to recently and they're just like, they want to say everything about their home. How about floor plans? Are those still very popular?
It's actually our second most popular service after photos. I want to say Jeremy would know this number better, but I want to say it's almost half of our shoots have floor plans.
I remember him when we were guest on his podcast when he was talking about how floor plans have become very, very popular.
Very much so.
I love them. I love looking at them, and you know, and maybe that comes from working for a builder and looking at building plans.
You're very comfortable with them.
So yeah.
But I think a lot more people like to see the floor plan, because when you're describing it in the listing, it doesn't really give enough, and no one's really putting the dimensions in anymore, right? So the way it sits in the house really does help a buyer.
Oh, for sure.
Especially, I mean, obviously, the larger the house, the more you would need that.
Yeah, the more intricate, or you know, it can help you kind of put the map together, because sometimes very custom houses that don't have a familiar, like a split, we all can kind of you put yourself there, and but you know, those really complicated houses, the floor plan can help, because when you're just thumbing through photos, you don't necessarily see the hallways between, and so you can have a little bit of like, whoa, where am I in this house? I'm totally lost. The floor plan can help you kind of put that puzzle together, and you start to be like, oh, okay, I see. So this connects to that, and then okay, great.
Well, that brings me to one, because sometimes the house is vacant and you're looking at empty rooms and not really sure in the picture what that means, but you also do virtual staging.
Correct. Yes, we do.
So, so do you have like different, contemporary, antique, farmhouse? I don't know. Do you?
Yeah. So we actually, we do accept all sorts of notes as far as style. What our people tend to do, what they're trained to do, is to like have the realtor kind of walk through and kind of give them their vision, if you would. Sometimes that vision, I would say probably most of the time, that vision is, I don't know, whatever you think looks good.
Yeah.
But in some cases, you know, especially if a house has a very specific vibe to it, we are asked to match that style, and we do. You know, we work closely with a partner who works with that on us, and we give pretty specific notes, up to and including picking the furniture from the catalog yourself if you so desire.
Wow.
So some agents want to be super hands-on with that. Other ones are like, I trust you guys, make it look good. But yeah, we're very flexible.
I trust you guys. We've worked together for so many years now.
Yeah.
I feel like when I first got into working with Madore Photography, Jeremy had said something like maybe 10% of all realtors were doing professional photography. So that meant 90% were still using their own cameras or their cell phones or something like that. Nowadays, I bet it's more 90%. Do you think it's that high? Or
so there was a company called Box Brownie a couple years ago actually did a study on this, a pretty inclusive study, and I recall the results were very regional.
Yes.
For one, urban areas were at close to what you were saying, like almost 100% adoption of professional photography. The more rural, the more that split becomes a little more 50-50.
Yes.
But if I recall, and this was a couple years ago, so it's probably changed since, but it was, rural areas were about 50-50, and urban areas were like in the 90s% for adoption of professional
I've been
photos.
seeing that coming back, not professional. I've been seeing a lot of listings
people
like
trying
that.
to save money or
Yeah, and honestly, it's hard. But I guess when you're looking at it and you send it like through an email, a picture's a picture, right? But when you actually post it on the grid that they give you in the multiple listing service, and it feeds all the websites, you could have this cramped little picture and then dark, and you don't know what it's about, or it's like, why did they put it on there? So when I really feel like even if you only had 20 photos versus the 42 they allow you, but you had 20 really great pictures, it's not the deceiving part. It's more about showing really what the house is.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
It's never going to, make it better or worse. It's just showing exactly what it is. And the photographers know how to take it. So like I always say to my clients, I'm never going to have a panoramic view, like a bubble.
Oh yeah.
Not going to have that bubble look. Like this room isn't going to look larger than it is.
Right.
Yeah, because that's at that point you've edged into deceptive, I think. At that point, when you're using the fisheye and it's got the big.
When people show up and say, "I thought the house was bigger,"
exactly.
what they saw. Well, but the we'll call it the DIY listing photos. Those are the ones where you might see the homeowner because or the realtor that took the picture because they're in the mirror.
Yeah.
You'll see the toilet lid up.
Yep.
Dishes still in the sink. Come on, folks, let's get rid of that. I don't know. I just feel like sometimes it's not even the fact that the photos don't show as nicely, but they're not as prepared as they should be.
It's a whole pipeline. It's not just like a realtor who's hiring a professional. They probably have other things in their process besides just the literal step of hiring the photographer. They're probably way more hands-on with the prep and making sure, and they're probably a lot more critical with their feedback on how the house shows at its current state,
Right.
So I do think it's, whether that's the chicken or the egg, who knows? But like, I think one goes hand in hand. Agents who hire professionals for stuff also tend to be a similar caliber of professionals themselves. And so they're a little more particular about those things.
That's us. So I was going to take it back to when you mentioned trash cans and things like that. There's so much that a homeowner can do to get their house ready for photo day, but there's going to be things that might just need to be moved when we get there.
Oh, for sure.
And I know it's pretty common to start off by photographing the bathroom, and that becomes our hiding place, and we're going to pick up some, the doormats. We're going to pick up some things, and then somebody has referred to this as the Easter eggs because they're looking for their Easter eggs afterwards. Where
Where's
did
the
she hide
toaster?
the remote? Where's the toaster?
I think Lana, we had one where you said you're like, I've never seen a toaster in a bathtub before. So it was something like that. We had hidden something like behind the curtain.
I think that's in a horror film.
I just know that when the photographer walks in, I try to be there at least 20 minutes before to get that house ready with the owner. And then the owner can see how detailed we are because I know your time is really important. I'm not there to have you come in and then you're going to start cleaning and moving stuff. We want to be prepared. One of the cool things that I remember, and it's like maybe 3, you go to the sink and you line up your faucet.
Oh,
so you go right in the kitchen. The sink faucet, yes, the shades, I know that. You put the light on the vent above the stove.
Oh, yeah.
So that has always been specific. And I go around and shut all the toilet seats.
Yep.
And I make sure the toilet paper is not like hanging down. So those things
Or a fresh roll if needed.
Yes, if
light
needed.
bulbs. Wait a minute. We got to tell people have extra light bulbs because you have gone from one room to another taking a light bulb to screw it in when you take some pictures.
Oh, we'll do that, but it does eat extra time.
Yes.
So,
Because the thing is, your time, you allotted a time. It's not like, oh, this is my photographer for the day.
No,
right?
During spring, we're doing 5 to 6 a day per person generally.
And you're driving to these places.
When commutes between as much as an hour between. So our schedule is tight in the spring, but that's why we do appreciate people who are proactive.
I think there was one time Keith and I actually moved. We had to physically move furniture.
Oh yeah, it does happen.
With a drawer, taking everything out, and I'm like, we should reschedule. And he's like, no, we got this. And we're hustling and talk about a sweat, right?
Oh yeah.
So I think the point is that I try to drive that, yes, it's a professional photographer coming, but it's not mine. That means, he's coming in our slot. Let's get that house ready. If I know I need to be there sooner, I'll be there even sooner than 20 minutes. Because 20 minutes is go around, put the lights on, know that we're going to move a couple things. I kind of put them all together. And then I get out of the photographer's way. I'm like, get out of his way. Unless you need to be there to move something.
Right, unless we've got the piece by piece.
Right.
Otherwise, we're hiding behind a wall listening to that click.
click.
And then, okay, is it safe? Yes, okay.
That's why our cameras beep and I leave it on, even though it's annoying, because it is a good indicator, hey, photo's about to happen in case you're just around the corner.
Yep. I feel like we have walked in and said, all right, redo.
Yeah.
Oh, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
If I saved all the photo bombs, I'd have thousands at this point.
So do you see anything new changing for 2025?
Definitely we're seeing vertical video seems to be people
What's vertical video?
So you can do horizontal, which would be on YouTube.
Yes.
Or you have, your reels on Instagram, your TikTok.
Yep.
Who knows if that's
right. Gonna stick around.
But
that's another story.
Yeah. But yeah, and YouTube Shorts is another one, which is the vertical format as you would view it on your phone. So what we're seeing is we launched vertical video almost exactly a year ago, last year, as an option. And it was horizontal video and vertical video. And that is slowly shifting.
Wow.
So a lot more people are doing the vertical under 1 minute social centric kind of video content. I imagine that's going to only grow more, is that people are going to advertise more and more on socials.
Sure.
So yeah, we're seeing a big growth in that. More people are getting on camera with that too, probably because it's a very accessible thing. You know,
I think it's a generational thing too, and I only say that because my husband, when he's taking pictures with his phone, you know, he's always turning it to have it horizontal.
Well, that's the way it was for 200 years,
right.
you know.
And when he sees me going vertical, it's like, no, that's not how you do it, you know. And I'm like, yeah.
I mean, you know, the audience in the end decides what they want to see.
That's right.
You know,
that's right.
and those who fight against that sometimes get left in the dust, you know?
Yep. So I want us to make a reel of this particular clip.
Yes.
So that I can have it show up on his YouTube when he's scrolling through and
Just
say,
solving
we were
arguments.
talking about you, Jim.
Yeah, I mean, it is true. It's you know, that's how people are moving. Maybe it'll shift back at some point in the future.
Yeah.
Who knows? But, you know, for better or for worse, the iPhone came out and was that. And,
Yeah.
you know, we've been dealing with the consequences and the imitations of that ever since.
Yep.
So, you know, that seems to be generally how the trend is going. And until the next one, who knows? But yeah.
Wow.
Great.
Well, thank you for your time today. Really appreciate you stepping in and helping us out.
And really stepping in.
Absolutely.
Saving us.
Well, it wasn't a long walk. I was right over there only moments ago. So,
well, if you're looking for Lana or I, you can find us at Coldwell Banker in Leominster. Please like, subscribe. Let us know if there's any topics you are interested in us covering. And if you're looking for Madore Photography, Next Level Studios, you can find us at 44 Old Princeton.
44 Old Princeton Road.
Okay.
So we're here at the Emerson Falls complex.
Emerson Falls, and in Fitchburg.
Yep.
Really pretty location.
It is awesome.
Yeah,
It's a cool old brick mill building. There's a cafe here. There's virtual golf. There's like the whole.
Yeah, and I know you guys do like headshots and a lot of other things too that are not just real estate related, but
whatever you might need for marketing suites. You know, photos, video, whatever you need.
Cool. Well,
Love it.
thank you.
Absolutely, my
Thank you
pleasure.
so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.